Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there, right up there, that's John. John, our resident millennial. John, how are you doing tonight?
Fan fucking tastic. How are you doing, Robert?
Yes, I will
Perfect.
concur. I concur. I see Brandon Sullivan in the chat. He called us boys, but he does a flamboyant leg kick to go with it. So I think that tells me what
I
I need
accept
to
it.
know. If I'm not mistaken, that is a throwback to Blazing Saddles, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it made me think of is Dom DeLuise in Blazing Saddles in the final show portion when they're doing the big Broadway number there on the stage and everything, and he does
I
this.
hated that. I absolutely hated that ending.
I thought it was funny as shit.
Fucking terrible.
But think about it, John.
It was so immersion breaking. It was fourth
Well,
wall
wait,
breaking to the max. It was just
right.
absolutely
But
ridiculous. No, fuck that
hold on,
ending.
hold on. Mad
Ah,
props to Mel Brooks for at that time having really coming through with a breaking the fourth wall
no.
situation. I mean, it was
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, and he did
no.
it large scale. It wasn't even just a little nod to the camera. That shit. I mean, Cleavon Little throughout the entire show was breaking the fourth wall, which was
Yeah.
beautiful. Mad
I mean,
props
he's
to
done
Mel
that plenty
Brooks.
of times, but yeah, no. I mean, first of all, I hate musical numbers to begin with. Like that's just a shitty thing to do to
That's
somebody.
just
Don't do
jealousy.
that to me.
That's just jealousy.
No, no. And two, it completely like ruins the entire story of the movie. You know, the movie has an actual story, even though it's hilarious and silly and goofy, whatever. It has a cohesive story throughout it, and then just at the end, nope, fuck that. Like, no, I don't like it.
But the
I want to get.
story was resolved. There was closure for that story.
I mean, there was, but at the same time, it's just I don't know. It just ruined the whole thing for
What
me.
they tried to tell you was that shit was for real, man. That shit was going on in real life. They just exposed it. They just brought it into the light of reality
Is that what you think?
so that you don't all sit around thinking it was some, old time story. It was real shit. They were exposing the plight of the urban gold miner,
Is that what it was?
railroad worker.
Back in the 80s?
So, John, welcome to
Oh shit, Robert.
2020. Welcome to
Yes, first
2020.
show of the year.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
almost had to end the sunglasses phase because I broke them earlier. One of the lenses popped out when I hit the ground.
Yeah, but cheap
Managed to get it
sunglasses
back in there.
they fix real
Yep.
easy. Hey, I'm gonna take a moment and I'm gonna make a public service announcement. I read this, and it makes damn good sense. We are currently in a year where it is very important that when you date things, that you write out the complete date. So you don't do 1/3/20. You need to
That's
do
stupid.
1/3/2020 for this reason. If you just leave it at 20 on dating
Mm-hmm.
something that's important, official, whatever, anyone can go in and add two digits to
Mm.
that. And suddenly now the document is a year old, or that check
Yeah.
is valid again in another year.
Yeah, that's
Things like
true.
this.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
2020 is a pinnacle year to make sure that we're writing the full
Holy shit.
2020 when we do our dates.
I didn't even think of that. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, just think about you've got 20 years right there, plus a total of 30 years practically that you can create off of that date. You can
Yeah.
set something at 2001 and claim that this document has been in place for this long, blah, blah, blah. Who can argue with you? It's there's you put the date on there. So yeah,
That's fucking crazy. Yeah, I didn't even
you
think of
know,
that.
so I thought that was a very important article. I think that point needs to get out there. People need to really pay attention to that. Sully Blue in the house. Welcome. Wait.
That's Brandon again. I don't know why. I guess he changed his name.
Ah, he's
Yeah,
Sully Blue. Does that
Sully.
mean is that a Monsters Incorporated
I think that's
reference?
his last name plus the blue for the Marines. Is my guess.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, I was thinking the big blue monster from Monsters Inc.
it's close.
I did, I don't immediately think Marine when I see a flamboyant leg kick. You know,
Why not?
because they're a little more. They're not so much flamboyant as they are kick ass, right? They would have
Okay,
done
well,
it. They would do a kick ass leg kick.
see, he changed it to not get raped.
I
Good,
changed.
yeah, good
Nice,
on you.
nicely done. Hey, John, have we got anything coming up that you can tell me about, or we got anything going on before we get too deep into our topics tonight?
Not at the moment, no.
All right.
But we are still working on getting some people on, so that'll be cool.
See,
Um,
I was right.
it has nothing to do with his last name, surely.
Well, see, he just said it's Monsters Inc. That's how he got the nickname Sully.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, come on. All right, well, so if we don't have a bunch of announcements, that's good. Make sure and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you
Yes.
haven't already, blah, blah, blah. These are important things. These are what keep us going. Actually, it's our own sense of self-deprecation that keeps us out here, to be honest with you.
It's
It's right. We just like to abuse ourselves by.
uh,
What's wrong with your beard, John?
it's like the one patch right here is like poking out. Just looks weird to me. I don't like it. Look at that.
That
You
whole
just feel
patch
like
right there on the front that's poking out, it starts like over at your left
see
ear and
that.
goes to your right. That one bothers me.
Well, I don't care what bothers you.
I know. That's your problem, John.
You like that? Got the
N-
one little section sticking out.
Marines are exactly the type to do gay shit to pass time,
Right.
which I could understand. But, but you shouldn't be the dumbass that calls them out on it. I'm just saying.
Well,
Oh, you fucking Marines, that's so gay.
well, yeah. Only they
Ow.
can call each other gay.
Right,
That kind of
right.
deal.
Yeah. You can't handle the gay. All right. So we're in the new year, John. It's
We are.
2020. This is going to be a
Woo!
moment. This is going to be a monumental year. I mean, this is a year for clarity of vision, if there ever was one.
Ha.
Thank you. Something new and exciting happened, but not so new and exciting because this is kind of like, oh yeah, they're still there. We've got a little situation going on with Iran suddenly, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Bum 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 bum
right.
bum
We
bum.
uh, we we took we took the liberty of giving them, visiting them with a little drone action, right?
Yeah,
And
care
we
package.
we took out their top general, like the second
Yeah.
most important person in the country. We took his ass out. I mean, he's gone. Um,
You.
Iran's not happy about it.
Why would they be? I mean,
They're
unless they didn't like the guy or something.
um, well, um, you know, uh, apparently when this was going to happen, there was some fictitious expectation that this wouldn't prompt any kind of warlike response from Iran. Like this somehow would be an isolated thing that happened. So Trump carries out a drone strike and takes out the top general in Iran. Does not go to Congress for any kind of approval for this. So now that is where the Democrats are at. Of course, right? You give them a bone and they will chew on it. So they're jumping on this fact that Congress knew nothing about this happening, which is not necessarily true. There were certain people in Congress that knew it was going to happen. They just sat on one side of the aisle versus the other. But it was kept relatively hush hush. He did not seek congressional approval, which would be the norm for a situation like this, primarily to prevent it from being seen as an assassination, right? Because we can't just do that. Uh, well, we can't do that publicly, right?
Yeah, we gotta call it something else or just not
Right.
tell anyone. But yeah, bullshit.
Uh, but
Yeah, we don't do assassinations. What? That's crazy.
midget be in the house.
So
Uh,
boy.
So, yes. Okay, so he carries out the strike. He didn't get congressional approval. Nancy Pelosi has got her little panties in a wad because she didn't know, she's like, hey, you told nobody this was going to happen. So we want to ask questions about it. Okay, fine. They're supposed to supply information within 48 hours after it happens to lay down why they did it. But on the other side of the fence, the administration side of the fence, the talk is that what occurred was not an assassination, and it was not an illegitimate attack. It was a self-defensive move. And we all and they even called on the whole human rights thing, the base natural right for human defense, and that's what this was. We struck him because he was how did they put it? Imminent, serious plans to attack American targets. Like they were imminent. These things were about to happen. Versus the DOD, who came out and said, well, this was in basically a preemptive measure for potential future attacks from this guy because he's a bad guy. So they have their defense in place for this. Why they did it, what their reasoning is. So they've got that. So now there's going to be some rigmarole. My main concern is, yes, Iran is now saying, okay, we are going to retaliate. They're talking retaliation now. It hasn't been put out there in spades exactly how it's going to be, but the Democrats are mostly pissed because they believe that Trump has initiated a potential conflict in the Middle East with this action. And that is one of the reasons why he's supposed to get congressional approval, is so that they can determine and say yay or nay, this will or won't enact a response like a wartime movement. It's going to be a sticky situation as to what happens, but we are moving 3,000 troops right now to Iran to put boots on the ground, I believe, in Baghdad. Is Baghdad in Iraq? That's Iraq.
That's Iraq, yeah.
What's the near Tehran?
Tehran.
Yeah, we're going to at our embassy. I think we're going to our embassy.
Midget P coming with a spicy commentary. I mean,
Right.
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Well, whoever's behind it is behind it, but the potential for conflict is real right now. Iraq is like, fuck you guys. We don't want to be a part of this. Iran, stay out of here. Quit fucking with us. America, you go fuck with Iran. We don't want to be a part of this.
Guess we didn't bring enough freedom to Iraq yet.
Well, not enough freedom that they want to get their shit stirred in the pot along with everybody else's.
Yeah, so they need more freedom, so they'll do what we want.
I mean, to be honest with you,
understand?
it's an amazingly surprising to me to hear Iraq say that we don't want to be a part of this conflict, right? We don't want to be fucking with Iran because typically you would expect 20 years ago you'd have been like, Iraq and Iran. The really only thing that separates them is a few letters in the alphabet. I mean, that's right. But I don't know.
I'm sure there's a lot more to that relationship than what you're thinking.
Well,
I mean,
no,
I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there is.
I mean, but once upon a time, they were just all lumped in as part of the axis of evil, as it were.
Yeah, whatever.
Iraq and Iran were named along with North Korea and others as these evil empires. But now they don't want to. They're like, leave us alone, Iran, which I got to give them props for. That's big time. But I will ask you this, John.
Ask me this, Robert.
Does the timing of this come into question? I mean, do you think that there's any legitimacy to that question coming from people in Washington questioning the specific timing of when he did this?
I mean, could be a couple of reasons why, but I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with the election, for one. I mean, if anything, I think that would hurt him for the election because he's gone this whole time being the anti-intervention president for at least relative to the last couple, last three or four probably since Daddy Bush. He's been the other one who hasn't been intervening as much, and he certainly hasn't started any new wars yet, right? So I think that if he did do that, that would hurt him a lot, especially someone who hasn't attacked us. That was one thing with 9/11 and people, being okay with the war in Afghanistan based on, 9/11. Fair enough. Um, but there's no real reason why the American people would be behind going to Iran. It's not going to happen. So no, I don't think it's convenient for that. However, I mean, obviously there's the impeachment going on. Could be a distraction from that, but again, that might hurt him there. I don't know.
Potentially.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
there is reasoning from the standpoint that Iran just attacked attacked an embassy and an American died. So an American, there's been an American civilian, as it were, casualty recently at the hands of Iran, a group in Iran. We can't necessarily say
That it was the government.
those groups, the IS and this, that, and the other, these groups over there, it really gets confusing because, it's like who's tied in with the government in this specific place or
Yeah.
other specific places. How much of the, are these actually just singular entities, and by entities I mean a singular group that has no ties to the government where they're at, where they have a stronghold. Um, this it becomes hard to fathom when you think about it. But I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe you can just get away with camping out in a fucking country and not be known over there. Nobody knows. I don't know.
I mean, they probably know. Yeah, I think our Sully Blue over there would probably be better to speak on that. He probably knows better, at least kind of what it's like to, for those people to live over there.
Yeah.
But I imagine that it's something like, they're tied with the government, and the government not having as many like police forces outside of cities, things like that. So they're kind of the enforcers. Um, Not necessarily the government telling them what to do, but them just kind of
Well,
ruling, outside, and the government allows them to live.
right, turning a
You
blind
know,
eye to it
right? Exactly.
ultimately,
Yeah.
and but then you also have to factor in, we have found, different governments over there. For instance, when we were going after Bin Laden and ISIS and everything, um, countries were feeding money to Al Qaeda, right?
Hmm.
So you have to wonder about these things. When you have someone, a country like Iran who can lump it off. It's almost like they can lump off blame to a group, a faction within their country. So this isn't necessarily us, you know.
Right.
And so now you've killed our general based off of a group that wasn't really us. But at the same time, we've been turning a blind eye to what they do
He
in our
wasn't a
country.
general. He was an austere military official.
Whatever. He was a,
Yeah.
is that their fun ranks over there?
Well, no,
uh,
it's like what's his face being an austere, what was it, an austere religious scholar
yeah.
like that. Yeah, but no, he's just an austere military official. It's okay.
It.
He's a
I
good guy.
I would, yeah, you mentioned Brandon, Sully might have some. He says Iran is a whole different beast than Iraq or Afghan. With that being said, there are many Iranians also happy about this guy being taken out.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, but it's but they're not necessarily in a culture where it's okay to voice that, right? Either, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's rather authoritarian there. Um, but there was some discussion in Discord today a little bit about it, and there's it always comes back to this point. If it's so bad, why aren't these people rising up and full on revolting. I mean, it's worked in other places, even in the Middle East, that that you can make change happen. But it's
Well, as far as I know, at least in Afghanistan, I don't know about the rest of them, is that they're more like tribal. So it has less to do with the country as a whole, and more to
right,
do with like your local community.
right.
So, what the government's doing doesn't really affect you unless they, come for you. In which case, you just kind of got to deal with it.
Well, right, but you would
They don't have the same kind of. They don't have the same kind of like individualism. That individual mindset. It's about the collective because they're all extremely religious.
sure, but whatever happened to self-preservation? I mean, it's one thing to live in a country and be that way. Sure, you're part of this tribe, you're part of this community, this group that's not tied in with the government. You're doing your own thing. But if that government goes to war, well, now you're a target. You've become
Hmm.
a target because civilians are often going to be, whether specifically or inadvertently, they're going to
Yeah.
be targets, right? So now you've got leadership in your country that are making decisions that are putting your life in jeopardy. When does self-preservation kick in and say maybe we need to do something about this? You know, that's what's always amazed me about the Middle East is how authoritarian, how dictatorial these countries can be.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine being in this country, you know, to look over there and say, how do you let that happen? How are you letting this
Yeah.
happen to you?
I mean, obviously, it's mostly religion, and then like the traditions in general. So you've got both religious traditions and cultural traditions that allow that sort of thing to keep happening.
Sully says, correct. It is very tribal. What screwed it up more was the British Empire drawing country lines and not factoring in the pre-existing lines drawn
Hmm.
by these people who inhabit the land. Well,
Yep,
I mean,
that's fair.
you can go back a long ways and see that you know people from Britain don't give a fuck about anybody else's opinion. I mean, I'm just
No,
saying. I mean,
they didn't at the time. Yeah.
we came over here from fucking Britain, and we didn't care about anybody's opinion on what we did with this country, what we did with the land, right? We didn't. I mean, it is what it
It's
is.
not. No, that's not true at all. That's no. That's a gross oversimplification
It is an
of what
oversimplification.
happened.
I will give you that, but they have proven time and time again. How look at Hong Kong. Hey, it's time for us to leave, but we've got your back for the next 50 years. If you need anything, just give us a call. Oh, sorry, we changed our number. you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. They don't have a long history of listening to peasants. Like I kind of that's how I always feel with the British is that they see every other country, everybody else in the world as peasants. Nobody could be as sophisticated and as well educated as them because they still use the Queen's English. I mean, it's this kind of mindset.
Well, so I mean, there was the peasant revolt in what was it like 13 something? Like I think it was like in 1300. No, I think it was before that even. Just before, maybe 12 something. But yeah, there was a peasant revolt, and then of course most of the colonies, revolted against the British, except for people like Australia and Canada, who just kind of like, hey, can we have independence? Come on. And then finally, after like 200 years of that, they were finally like, yeah, sure, whatever.
You know,
Fucking pussies.
Britain, England, they've been around so fucking long. They're like that. They're like that really, really old lady at the family reunion who can't hear shit. She's got a hearing aid. It's turned up all the way, but she still can't hear shit. Yet she yells at you about everything she thinks you fucking did, and can't hear you going, that's no, that wasn't me. That was Joey. No, it was. She can't hear you. She doesn't fucking
Yeah.
care. She's just doing her own fucking thing, you know. It's just plodding
Yeah.
along. I mean, fucking England's been around forever. Why hasn't anybody taken that shit over? Like, why? How have they
They
managed to?
tried. They tried. It's mostly due to the British Navy. That was why they couldn't get taken over.
And that's funny because they are surrounded by so much land owned by other people, right? I mean, there's so many
Right.
countries around them.
More immediately, they're surrounded by water, though.
Well, sure, but there's so much avenue into that country through land, right? I mean, there really is. That you could have a purely ground war with them if you played it right, and their ships would never come into it.
Well, you would have to get your people over there first.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
just drive through other countries. Excuse us, passing through. We're
To
gonna go
wait,
take out. We're gonna take Grandma out.
wait, to get
Grandma's about to.
wait. How do you get to England without going through the water?
Is England completely surrounded by water?
Do you really not know that?
Wait, isn't part of it? No, part of it is
No.
is land
No.
based.
No.
What is?
Wow.
Wait, am I is my geography off? There's a strait there that's like very
It's
narrow.
the English Channel. Yeah.
Right. So there's a river that they call water.
No, it's not a river. Holy fuck! I can't
Is it?
believe you
Is
didn't
it?
know that they
I
were
didn't
completely
realize
an
it was a
island.
complete an island. I didn't think it was a complete
Yes.
island.
Holy shit! Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
What am I?
Yes, they are. They're completely an island. That's why they're the British Isles.
Wow. What am I thinking? Wow.
I don't know, man.
I swear to God, I always thought that they were touching land there too.
No.
Well,
You think they would want to be touching France? Hell no.
well, sure. Who wouldn't want to touch France?
Dude, Cameron, did you just hear that shit? Cameron just showed up.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I call. Yeah. That's my
Oh
rumor
my
is for
god.
tonight. I always thought that they were touching land, and you know, down there where the English Channel is, I always thought there was still a part that touched land, and they had. I don't know
Nope.
why. I never, why? Because I always pictured it something like the Panama Canal, as opposed to a pure fucking wide waterway going through there. I don't know why. You know, let's hear it for geography.
Yeah. It's here for what was it? Nebraska that you grew up in? Whatever the
Okay,
fuck
and
it was. Their
midget,
public school system.
midget, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not talking completely out my ass.
Not completely.
No, I haven't said anything out my ass except just was confused about
Except for
England.
geography.
Well, yeah, one thing I was confused about the geography of England, but that's me talking out my
Hey,
ass all
RC.
night. The only one
RC
talking
in
out
the
their
house.
ass tonight is Midget B, the fucking Jew, the Jew hater.
You know he's just fucking with you, right?
Oh, I don't care. I'll fuck back. I mean, that's the beauty of consensual fucking.
That's
I
true,
fuck
yeah.
back.
You both get a turn.
Uh,
Yeah.
but anyway, so you know, going back to the timing of this thing. What the hell is the Nebraska? It's a war. Is it an aircraft carrier or was it just a battleship? The Nebraska was
Uh,
a
I think it was a battleship. Like, I don't know. I think it was a battleship. I don't think it was an aircraft. They would never give, uh, like an aircraft carrier the name Nebraska. They've always
What?
picked back states.
What did I say? What did I say wrong about Iran? I'm curious.
Iran. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. I'm just spewing news that people have been talking about.
Oh my god.
Okay, I never said anything about assassinations not being the norm. I said I know
It's
we do
true.
it. I'm just saying
No.
you're not supposed to
Yeah, that's
do it
fair.
out in the open. Somebody in the chat said something about assassinations not. I never said it wasn't the norm. I even said we fucking do it. I know we do it.
Yeah,
But we're
that's true.
supposed to
Maybe
get
he did say that.
we're supposed to get congressional approval to do it, so it doesn't look like a fucking assassination. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but you're not going to though.
I'm going to vote for listening. We should try that one. Too long, didn't listen. Anyway, but anyway, so one of the questions about timing in the attack, the drone strike in Iran, that when I saw it popped into my head was it coincided with basically, I don't even know, can you call it a document drop? All of the information that was brought in from the FOIA over the impeachment, all the stuff about Ukraine. Well, there was a FOIA filed, which is the Freedom of Information Act, blah, blah, blah. And they got a bunch of information, but of course, they got all, it's like 300 documents, but redacted to hell and back. But apparently, Just Security got their hands on the unredacted documents from all the conversations that were going on from June through September about the Ukrainian funds, which is very key in the impeachment because, of course, it is it's said that the funds were withheld, waiting on confirmation from Zelensky that he was going to investigate corruption involving Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, all of that. That's the accusation. Of course, the administration, no, none of that is true. That's not what it was about. It was a perfect phone call. There were no issues. The money wasn't held for any nefarious reasons. Well, these unredacted documents are making me question the validity of those claims from the administration. And only because of what was like the shit that they were redacting. Ultimately, it's basically saying that they wanted to hide concerns about the money being withheld. Sorry, I was reading what Sully said in chat.
Oh, I was reading the article.
All right.
Wow. You just noticed that.
Right.
It
Well,
doesn't even look good anymore because it's like on top of my shirt
I
over
put
there.
it I put it over there because you kept breaking the fourth wall with your arms going up and
Now you're breaking it permanently with the shirt.
well,
Hey, Ron Helton, what's up, man? Thanks for
um,
coming by.
but so ultimately, I want to kind of go through this and I want to talk about what was, how the process went and the conversations that were going on according to these redacted documents. Now, I have to say that should it come to light that any of this was forged, made up, bullshit like that, I'm not giving any validity to this. I'm only showing what is being presented, what is being said about alleged unredacted documents that were White House conversations going on during the Ukrainian bullshit. So that being said, there are key players involved in this that are going to be referenced throughout this. One of them is Michael Duffy. He's the associate director of the National Security Programs for the Office of Management and Budget, or the OMB. We also see some communication with Robert Blair. He was the senior advisor to the White House, the acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney. When he was sitting in that position. There is Elaine McCusker. She is the Pentagon comptroller. Basically, she's the pass-through for money, because there was military aid associated with this package. So, of course, the Pentagon is involved in that. And then there's Mark Esper, who is the defense secretary. He factors into this and talks. So according to the timeline of things, basically the money it came down from the administration to put a hold on the money. Now, the reasoning behind that was given, they asked President Trump apparently asked for some key information, and what he was asking for before he sent the money was to find out what the money was going to be used for, right? Like, basically what it was going to be spent on were these American companies that were going to be providing materials, this, that, and the other. He also wanted to know if, where'd it go? What other countries were going to be contributing and where the U.S. funding was going to come from. So these were three things that he wanted to know. He put out there that he wanted to know before the money was approved to go. Now, That came back pretty quickly. Laura Cooper, she testified at to the House Intelligence Committee what he wanted to know, and that the Defense Department collected the answers and sent them back over to it. And basically, they said the vast majority of companies providing equipment were American. They told the White House that the United Kingdom, Canada, Lithuania, and Poland all contribute military training and equipment to Ukraine, and that the European Union also provides an enormous amount of economic support. As for the third question, which it was the trickiest, they say, because of the strange phrasing. And I don't know. I don't know the strange phrasing to say where the money's going to come from. But basically, they were like, the money's coming from Congress with bipartisan support. I mean, that's where the money's coming from. Congress is approving this money to go out. Um, so the key there is, one thing that's going to happen whenever you put this money out there is there are deadlines for how the money is going to be spent, and when the money can be spent. Because, of course, as you can see, we've got American companies that are going to be providing equipment that requires contracts. That the contracts require dates. They need closure. This kind of thing. So Blair wanted to know the status of the funding. Was any of the money out the door? McCusker, she answers back. She said only $7 million of the $250 million has been obligated to date. Now, understand there was $250 million aid package. There was another hundred and something million that was going to be military funding as well. But they sent information about all the equipment that was going to be purchased, what was going to be happening with it. But Blair emailed Mulvaney on June 27th, the chief of staff, and he said the Ukraine money could be held, but it's going to expect Congress to become unhinged. Like, things are going to be happening in Congress with it. So, Duffy, who is with the OMB, the
Duffy beer, of course.
right, Office of Management and Budget, he sent an email out, and basically he said, based on guidance I have received, and in light of the administration's plan to review assistance to Ukraine, including the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, please hold off on any additional DoD obligations of these funds pending direction from that process. I understand the DoD will continue its planning and casework during this period, and that this brief pause in obligations will not preclude the DoD's timely execution of the final policy direction. We intend to formalize the pause with an apportionment footnote to be provided later. And that's a footnote that they're going to put on the weekly budget information that says this is held. The DoD is going to have time to dole out the money, handle the money, once we get this pause taken care of. Now, real quick, Ron Helton says, what's up, you filthy animals? Hope you enjoyed the holidays. He says, if Trump didn't have the authority to hold up the money, then there wouldn't be a problem. So obviously the Office of the President has control over disbursement of foreign aid. The unlawful behavior is foreign aid. Yeah, I mean,
I'm with him on that. I mean,
right.
We don't have to give you aid, and if we want something in return, then, so be it. But I mean, I don't think we should be giving aid to most countries in general.
So now McCusker, who's the Pentagon comptroller, she sends an email and she says, she asked him, basically, if what he was saying had gone through the Defense Department's general counsel. You spoke with the lawyers about this, and this is all above board, right? There's no issues with the legality. They redacted that question that she asked. And I don't understand that. So there's that immediately starts some confusion in my head. She's just asking, did you go through the Department of Defense's lawyers and make sure this was okay? All right. But obviously that needed to be redacted, right? Okay. So July 25th was when the first hold on the Ukraine funding was done by footnote in the budget document. Now, as this progressed, give
me 1 second. Keep going, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
2 seconds.
So as this progressed, the there is information going back and forth, but the Defense Department, of course, they're apparently they're showing concern based on, they're starting to get concerned because of the legal requirements of spending all the money by the end of the fiscal year. And they point out in a communication, the OMB noted that the president's direction via the chief of staff in early July was to suspend security assistance by blocking the 115 million congressional notification and by halting the 250. They nobody questioned. They were like, okay, this, you've done the channel. We're assuming you've gone through the channels. This is a brief pause. We're on hold. So now, as it continues on, so basically over the next few weeks, each week, they're putting this note in. Okay? They're putting this note in again. It's on pause. The DoD will have time to execute the money before the end of the fiscal year. No problems. No worries. McCusker wrote to OMB on August 9th. She said, as we discussed, as of 12 August, I don't think we can agree that the pause will not preclude timely execution. We hope it won't, and we'll do all we can to execute once the policy decision is made, but can no longer make that declarative statement. And basically saying we're running out of time. I'm paraphrasing the article. The Justice Department, again, blacked this out. That she sent this to them, this plea to them, or letting them know we can't say for sure we're going to be able to spend the money. We'll try. We're working on it, because what they were expected to do in the background is still be setting up the deals, preparing the contracts, getting everything signed up, getting everything ready to go. So once the money hit, boom, they send it all out. Everybody goes, go, 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 go. But what was actually happening is you've got people who are like, okay, we're signing contracts. There's no money coming. You're wanting this stuff. When's the money coming? People began to ask questions. So McCusker sent to Duffy. She said, okay, I understand. And this is on August 12th. 3 days later, she's like, in her head, she's like, okay, it's going to be extended again because they were about to add in. She said, okay, here, can we put this proposed language on the next footnote? Based on OMB's communication with DoD on August 12th, OMB understands from the department that this additional pause in obligations may not preclude DoD's timely execution of the final policy direction, but that execution risk increases with continued delays. Told them very specifically, please put this footnote in. They needed it. So when they put the next footnote in, they went with the same shit that they had been going with. They did not include this language. They did not include this warning that we are reaching a point where we cannot get the money out if this is going to continue. So that's August 12th. There was supposed to be a meeting between Trump, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Esper at Trump's golf course resort. There was supposed to be communication about Ukraine. Talked about it. Blah blah blah. And guess what? Didn't even, apparently, according to Duffy, they didn't even talk about Ukraine. So on the 16th of August, they were supposed to discuss. They were supposed to figure out what was happening with the money. Nothing. And that's what he told her. Sounds like Ukraine was not discussed. Okay. So, again, Pentagon working, comptroller, they're trying to get shit straightened. August 20, another footnote, extending the hold through August 26. No language again about flagging the growing risk. They still would not include language on that budget. In an August 21 email to colleagues, McCusker notes that members of the House Appropriations Committee traveled and gave them nothing. They got no information. So she started asking about impoundment paperwork. And basically what that is, okay, we're reaching a point where you need to draw paperwork so that we can impound the money and put it back into the budget. Because it doesn't look like it's going to go out to the Ukraine. We're not going to be able to spend the money. So she starts asking about impoundment money. And he's like, I'm not tracking that. Is that something you're expecting from OMB? Well, yeah, it is. It's got to happen. Guess what? This information, this conversation, redacted. Didn't want this information out there public either. So it goes on, keeps going on. They're asking. So you've got contractors now. You've got other politicians starting to ask questions. There's a news report that basically goes out. What was it? Politico, I think it was, put out a news article and busted this, that the money for the Ukraine was on hold for unknown reasons, et cetera, et cetera. No, and everybody's asking, what's the reason? What's the reason? McCusker says, recognize the importance of decision space, but this situation is really unworkable, made partially difficult because OMB lawyers continue to consistently mischaracterize the process and the information we provided. They keep repeating that this pause will not impact DOD's ability to execute on time. That response again also redacted. Anything that points to the fact that there were issues, troubles with this money, all redacted. This goes on and on. So we get closer to September 11th when the money was finally going to be released, or was finally released. No action has been taken. This is these are talking points that were being hashed out on August 28th about the Politico story that broke. And they said no action has been taken by OMB that would preclude the obligation of these funds before the end of the fiscal year. No action has been taken that would preclude the obligation of these funds. Like nothing's been going on that would stop these funds from going out by the end of the fiscal year, other than this fucking pause that's been going on week after week after week. And then she responded with, I don't agree to the revised TPs. The last one is just not accurate from a financial execution standpoint, something we have been consistently conveying for a few weeks. Her reaction, redacted. Again. So when it finally gets down to it, at the end of it all, this came out from, this information. Finally, he releases the money. I mean, he took it right up to September 11th, and the end of the line was the end of September. I think it was the fiscal year, something like that. But they're asking, she's asking, do you believe the DoD is adequately protected from what may happen as a result of the Ukraine obligation pause? Who's going to get in trouble for this? Is there anything? But again, we expect it to get resolved. Don't worry. But then, when it's all said and done, after it went out, Duffy sent an email out and said this: as you know, the president wanted a policy process run to determine the best use of these funds. And he specifically mentioned this to the Secretary of Defense the previous week. OMB developed a footnote authorizing DoD to proceed with all processes necessary to obligate funds. If you have not taken these steps, that is contrary to OMB's direction and was your decision not to proceed. If you are unable to obligate the funds, it will have been DoD's decision that causes any impoundment of funds. So basically threw them under the fucking bus. Said, you guys haven't been doing dick. You didn't. We put all the stuff out there that we needed to. You didn't say dick. You didn't do. What are you doing?
God damn, is bureaucracy boring?
Right. So
Jesus Christ.
So, and then of course her final response to that, which I love. You can't be serious. I am speechless.
Oh man.
So
he should have been like, I am serious. And don't call me Shirley, even though she didn't call him Shirley, but
so
still would have been good.
So I'll put this question to you, John. Why would all this conversation be redacted?
Yeah, that is really confusing, because there's nothing there. It's just bureaucrats talking to each other, wondering why they can't bureaucrat harder. And it makes no sense to me. Like why that would be redacted.
It does. Is it a little bit disturbing to you?
No, it's just boring.
Well, no, I mean you don't
sanity. I mean,
well, I mean, wait. You don't find it at all disturbing that the Trump administration felt that this conversation going on about the money, these concerns, these issues surrounding the money, and people asking throughout the process, why is the money being held? What's the point? What's the purpose? All of that was redacted for a reason. It wasn't national security reasoning. I don't see anything national security in there to call for redaction.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why anything is redacted other than obviously if
Well,
it's top secret or,
because it's going to go public, right? You don't want national security stuff going public in documents, so they
right. Well,
redact
that's what
that.
I'm saying. Yeah. But obviously that's not national security stuff. I don't know. Maybe they had to do other things to not have it redacted. You know, they probably had to go through some sort of like appeals process to say, hey, can we put this information out? You know, because you got people's names in there. Um, just like I
No,
guess interdepartmental, communication.
sure, but they don't care
I
about that
mean,
as long as there's no national security secrets. I mean,
that's what you think. Apparently, they do.
the administration did. You know, it was Trump's people that redacted these
Yes, yeah, that's
documents,
what I'm
right?
saying. Yes, yes. There's probably a
So,
process they have to go through
well,
to make
I
sure that
understand.
information is not redacted.
I get there's a process that you have to go through, John. That's beside the point. The point is what was what was necessary in all of that that you felt you needed to hide it, that you didn't want the public to know.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that the reason why it might have been redacted was because they weren't allowed to release that
That's
information, whether it be the
bullshit.
person's
I
name.
disagree with that. They throw that shit out there all the time with people's names in it. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck unless it's national security reasons. You can't tell me or you can't convince me, I don't think, that they did not want the American public to know that the entire process with this Ukraine money was being questioned from the very get
Well, I mean,
because it because
I
it
guess whatever. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think there's
it
anything
gives
there.
it gives legitimacy. It gives legitimacy to the Democrats looking into it. Now it gives even more legitimacy because they felt like they had to hide the concerns that people were voicing. That I don't know. I think that speaks to a certain level of duplicity. Something there's something they were hoping to hide.
What? Like, what were they hiding?
That there were concerns about the money being held in the first place. That
I
it's
mean,
legitimate to
yeah,
ask the questions in the impeachment.
but would they know? Like, why would those particular people know why it was being held? Their job is to handle the money, not to know
Oh no no
why
no no!
money's
They're
going from one place
you,
to
you're
another.
no, you're supposed to have no. They need reasons. There's legalities
Why?
involved with the money because it's money coming out of the budget. It's money going to foreign aid. I mean, there's you've got to
Right,
legitimize it and
right.
keep it legal.
No. But those particular people don't necessarily need to know. They just need to know which accounts to put it in, or which or how much to put in that account, whatever it is.
So
That's what they're
the
they're just paper pushers. They don't
okay,
do anything else. They're not.
the comptroller was completely consistently saying we
Mhm.
have to worry about the legality of this. The reasoning is important for that, so that we address the legalities of withholding the money and not apportioning it in time should this pause go on too long. She said that clearly. There's legal repercussions if we don't. So I think it is very important that she know why it's being held up. I mean, I think it's important that more than just Trump knows why it was being held up.
No, more people than Trump did know. It
Sure.
was just those particular people did not. That's it.
I mean, even Duffy in his communications seemed a little confused or a little,
Sure.
unsure of why it was happening, and he was right there. He's OMB. He's the Office of Management and Budget. He's got to know. He should fucking know. Somebody should know that's handling the money. I have a
It's,
problem with that.
I don't know. If you go over and tell someone, "Hey, pay that guy $100," it's your job to dole out money. Like, does it matter why you're giving that guy $100? No, you got told by the boss to give that guy $100, or to not give that guy $100. I mean, it's. I don't see why they need to know. And yeah, they might be confused because that hasn't happened beforehand, and they're like, "Why is this money still paused here?" Sure, you'd be confused about that, but that's just private communication between them. I don't think there's anything there. And if they're in, so I can imagine why, I guess, you would want that redacted at the beginning. It's because, yeah, the Democrats are going to hold that up and be like, look, even, these
Right.
people are like, hey, what the hell?
Well,
When they have nothing to do with the reasons why.
okay, so it's of course going to look shady. You can't. Nobody can say it doesn't look shady that you redacted a bunch of shit. That yes, midget. So the whole time, yeah, it was their plan to hide that people were concerned how Trump was doing his job. Yeah, people that were right there standing beside him, helping him do his job. If they, if they're expressing concern, well, yeah. I mean, there's no problem with showing that. But if you don't show it, if you're trying to hide that fact, well, there's a reason. There's got to be a reason.
I want to address what Ed's saying right now in the chat. He said, "Is John getting drafted?" John is not getting drafted. John would never answer a draft thing, whatever it's called, a little card they give you when you're like, "Hey, your name came up."
Did you sign up for selective service?
Well, yeah, I had to when I registered to vote.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Yeah,
No, it does
you
matter. I'm
agreed
not
to the
going.
draft. You agreed to the draft by
No, I
signing
didn't.
up. Yeah,
No, I didn't.
you put your name on it, John. You agreed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, let him come to me.
John, besides, it's not drafting. It's forming a militia. Duh.
No, it's not forming a militia. It's conscription. What they're doing is conscription. No, John is not getting drafted. He might be chosen, but John will not be drafted. No.
Now, see, I can get behind what Ron is saying. He says every president, by the same guidelines of the Nuremberg trials, could be tried as a war criminal, which is
Mm-hmm.
true. But hey, we are more concerned about unconstitutional foreign aid that the Congress approved. I
He
like
said
I like
okay after.
I like how he says unconstitutional foreign
Oh,
aid.
dude. CR, what is that, 1000? No, yeah.
John is
CR
based.
1000 26740. I think I've seen you in here once before, but thank you. Appreciate it. I try to baste myself all the time, mostly in like turkey grease and such.
Okay.
Delicious.
you know you, the sad thing is and why that gave me pause because I do editing, right, so I edit these different short novels that people are writing, and one thing that it's weird seems to be happening consistently with younger writers this day and age is past and past.
Oh yeah,
So and they're putting PASSED in
I'm
when.
reading your chat, Michael Vega. Don't worry. Sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, that's why it got me because like I see that happen all the time with past and past.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, I hate that one. And but the worst offender of all for me is when people instead of saying lose, they spell loose, like with two O's. It's like you fucking moron. If you, as soon as you say loose instead of lose, I have no respect for anything. Your opinion doesn't matter to me anymore.
or when they put out a meme and it's like no losers.
Yeah, losers. Yeah,
Like what
exactly.
the fuck?
It's like you
The fact, do you
fucking
not have spell?
moron.
Do you have not have spell check on your memer?
Well, that's the thing is that's an actual word, right? Loose, at least. I don't know about
Not
loosers, but
well.
loose is a word.
This screw is looser than that one.
Yeah, well,
But
losers, though I'm saying plural, like
oh yeah,
losers.
yeah, no, no.
Well, yeah, that makes it a yeah, that makes it a noun.
I blame Satan for all my fat finger cereal.
Yeah, that damn Satan. Damn. Always fucking with your keyboard.
Uh, so when it's all said, and done, whatever. I have a problem. I do. Yeah, you can call me a boomer, call me whatever you want. I have a problem with this information having been redacted. You think it's curious. You called it curious. It seems odd that they would have redacted these
It does
non-committal,
seem
and
odd.
yeah, especially you're talking about the anonymity of the people. But the funny thing is, in these redacted, their names are all over it. They don't redact their names. They redacted what they said. Their names are still there. If shit, look at that. It's McCusker, Lane, A. Han, OSD. So they're not protecting identities. They were specifically redacting shit that they didn't want talked about.
Sure.
And maybe it was, oh well, if we put this out there, it'll just give the Dems a harder bone to chew. But that's still shady. I mean, that's not being transparent. I
Yeah.
mean, and so yeah, it's questionable. I'm not going to say that the curiosity isn't higher in myself than it is you, but I don't know, man. I don't like shit like that. I don't like that coming from this admin. I just don't, because he does too many things that puts him on the edge of shady or just really bold and brash, right? He walks that fine line constantly, and you pull something like this, it's like, okay.
I mean, I doubt that he personally, ordered the redaction or had them redacted or whatever. I doubt that he personally did that.
Oh, I don't
Um,
think he sat there redacting it, but I'm not
no, no,
gonna
no. I'm
for a
saying I don't
minute.
think he ordered it either. I don't think he was like, "Hey, make sure you redact that information." You know what I mean?
No, he
It
just
was
said
probably someone
remove
else in
redact.
his administration who did
Right,
that.
redact anything that someone might construe as damaging. So they
Yeah,
basically
possibly.
redact everything. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, right?
Well,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, but I mean, you kind of have to, right? In this day and age, everything is going to be damaging in some way because someone's going to interpret it whatever way they want, and that's the way that the media is going to report it. Especially that's the way that people are going to interpret it. It's just it's a no-win scenario, really.
I mean, right, and it's I guess it's this idea that's like, okay, so all this information that was redacted that just seems unnecessary to redact. It's like, what day and age do you live in? You honestly believe that your redacted documents are going to go unseen? I mean, we don't. We live in a day and age where somebody will get at it if they want it bad enough. Um, so this, I don't know. It seems like a foolish move to do it, even if it's just to stop the Democrats from having a bigger bone to chew on. The knowledge that it's eventually going to come out. I mean, I can't believe that Elaine McCusker has not been more in the spotlight up to this point, right? I mean, but apparently nobody knew. Nobody thought to go talk to her or get information. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just surprising to me. But
Oh shit. Michael Vega's chat was redacted. Damn.
ooh, Ron Helton's.
Yeah.
Maybe those who redacted did it because they were working for the deep state, and this is part of the plan to attack Trump further. Sorry, but Ukraine Gate is BS. It is. I mean,
Well, it is. It is
it is
100%
right.
bullshit.
I
Yeah.
mean, when it all comes down to it, it's like it's a matter of opinion, right? Like, it's left. The only thing that we can do is form an opinion. Do I believe, or do you believe, that he was trying to get Ukraine to smear his campaign rival, or was it a clean phone call? I mean, that's really all it comes down to is is an opinion, because there's
Yeah.
nothing concrete. Even these documents, even all those concerns, there's not hard evidence. It's just a more trail of concern, confusion, whatever. That's why I'm like, you should have just put these out unredacted. I mean, it's enough smokescreen to keep everybody confused, and still nothing concrete to nail down. The only thing that could have been gained from this was more witnesses in the first set of impeachment hearings, testimony. That's the only thing I could think could have been gained from it. Um, uh, the intelligence community has been full-on attacking against Trump since he publicly stated that he didn't trust him. Well, yeah, but he doesn't trust anybody. Uh,
Yeah, but you would also think though that as the intelligence community, they have the tools at hand to find whatever dirt they want on him,
right.
right? So if there
One
was
would think.
actual dirt, don't you think that would have come out? I mean, yeah, there's legality issues, but those can always be, there's always a workaround for those.
Look, I'm just going to put it out there, and president aside, Donald Trump, as a businessman, I don't for 1 minute believe that he is above board with his business outside of the ability to protect himself from being connected to any shady shit that goes on in his organization. Because it has been shown people have gotten in trouble in his organization, doing time, all of this shit right under his fucking nose. So him being the amazing businessman he is, had no clue that any of this was going on.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
it's all about
He's a master at not letting things touch him.
yeah, it's all about plausible deniability, right?
Right?
I mean, if he can say, "Oh, I didn't know that happened," and it's at least believable that he didn't know, then he can't be faulted for that.
Isn't that didn't
Legally, you can't,
well
right?
didn't Gotti get away with shit for like a long fucking time, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
these gangsters that manage to keep themselves detached from all the nasty shit that's going on
yeah.
around them. I mean, hell, what was it? Al Capone. The only way they got Al Capone was on
There's
taxes, right?
tax
Right?
evasion. Yep.
But he was wasting fucking people. He had some of the most amazing organized crime set up in our
Yeah,
history.
and
I
everyone knew. That's the
right.
thing. Everyone knew. Even the
Everyone
police
knew.
knew because the police were getting paid by him. So yeah, that's the thing though. Is if you're a mob boss, you keep yourself clean. You are clean personally, right? It's the fall guys are the ones who go to jail if someone's going to go to jail. You and like your small group of people, they're safe. Um, but I mean, that's not just the mob, right? That's any kind of business, even.
Well, if you're doing something shady.
No, even
Right.
no, I'm saying even a perfectly legitimate business.
Well, I mean, you don't have to
You know what I mean?
distance yourself from what your business does if everything your business does
If
is
you're doing
above
things
board.
like if you're doing things like corporate espionage and things like that, which
Well,
a lot of the times aren't illegal but are still a shady practice. If you can wash your hands of that,
but
the PR is going to be fine.
right, but ultimately, I mean, so like in that example, I don't know that that's a great example because like with corporate espionage, you know, if it's found out who did it, well, yeah, I guess what you're saying is you can dump it on some lackey scapegoat and say that they
Right, and you
ordered
say,
it
"Oh well,
without
I
your
fired
approval.
him." Right, I fired that
Right.
guy. That guy is gone. We do not condone this. You can do a whole bunch of CYA and fire this guy. Meanwhile, you give him a nice severance package, and he
Right.
goes off with somebody else for a little while, whatever. Whatever it is, he's gone, and he knew the deal, beforehand. But the point is that the guys on top are safe,
Right.
and they
And
go for that.
you can't forget destroying any documents that might have your name on them associated with it.
Well, that's the
You have to
point. Is
take
that
that
you're not
part.
the one who orders it, right? Or you might order it in person.
Well, yeah, you've got to do it all in person. You can't have any kind of paper trail, or you have to destroy any kind of paper trail that might have
Right.
snuck through. CR 1000 says Trump hasn't mastered the art of Arkancide. What is Arkancide?
Not sure.
Good.
Is that
Uh,
like people killing people from Arkansas? Is that what that means?
maybe. Oh, the Arkansas Clintons, Arkansas,
Oh,
Arkansas.
okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, I see that.
Ron Helton says, "Hell no, Trump was not above board in his business. He operated out of the
I didn't know it had a name.
Democratic corrupt New York City. You just know he paid bribes to the mob and to the government to get business done." And yes, we can. I'm right there with you, Ron. I thoroughly believe that those are the kind of things that happened.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't doubt that he has done that kind of shit. Now, it's not saying that other business people don't do the same shit, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying you you can't do things that make you look shady and then come into the presidency and not expect that people are going to look at you like you might be shady, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I got to give him props. He's honest about things. Like when he talks about the casinos and their bankruptcy, he's like, we just worked the tax code and found the loopholes. Anybody can use them. I just took advantage of the tax system that your government put in place. They gave me the loopholes. I just used them. I'm like, well, can't argue that, right? That's not even shady. That's just going by the law, right? Going by
Yeah.
tax law. But no, there's shit that he's done I don't think is above board, and so I have always questioned whether or not, you know, once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a liar, always a liar. That's the mindset. Well, did he wash his hands of all of that when he stepped into office, to where everything he's doing in office is above board? I don't know. I
I
can't.
don't know, but I don't think that they found anything sufficient to claim otherwise. We
Right.
do believe in innocent until proven guilty, and that's the issue, right? Is that he hasn't been afforded that opportunity at all.
Texas.
That's why I have such a big issue with it.
Well,
He's never been afforded the opportunity of innocent until proven guilty. It was just guilty. Now
well,
let's find
sure.
the crime.
Well, sure. I
That
mean,
is
if
dangerous as hell.
the
That
Democrats
is
had every plan
horrible
to,
way to run anything.
the Democrats had a plan from the get to try and get him out of office. I'm not gonna say they didn't, because they didn't see this shit coming, and it hit them hard like a train. And they're like, oh fuck, Hillary couldn't pull it out. Fuck, what
Mm-hmm.
are we gonna do? Let's impeach the son of a bitch. Find a
Impeach
way,
the motherfucker,
right?
as what's her name said. Yeah.
But of course, that being said, they had everything. They had the motivation, they had the inspiration, because certainly he wasn't above board in his business practices. That means he's going to be a shitty person as president too, and he's going to be breaking the
Mm-hmm.
law. We just have to catch him at doing it. So that's what it's been, and I won't say for a minute that they didn't do it. But you know
Hey, look,
he's
Ed agrees with me.
but
Yeah.
there is, um, Midget says Robert's assuming good faith. It's not as though anyone is looking at him as though he's shady. Well, no, everybody's looking at him
Yeah.
as shady. I mean, even people that support him from the
Yeah,
standpoint of,
Richard, I think you said the opposite of what you're saying there. You said that sarcastically.
yeah.
You said it's not as if anyone's looking at him as though he's shady. I mean, that was obviously sarcasm.
Well, no, I know it's sarcasm, but I mean, of
No,
course.
no, no, I'm telling Midget that was
Oh,
obviously sarcasm.
oh,
Yeah,
but of course, that's the thing.
that you were saying.
I mean, I would suspect that many of his followers, many of his voters, would, even if pressed with the question, so you think this guy's about? No, but I like his style. It's not about whether or not he's a good guy, because we've made ourselves complacent with corruption in Washington, right? In our government. So even if he is a little bit corrupt, that's no big deal. He's got bold, brash ideas, so I support him, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I would ask this: do you think that all of this? Do you think the American public might be so tired of him being a target and all the bullshit that has gone along with it, that they won't reelect him simply to not have to put up with this bullshit for another 4 years?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think that they're tired of the way that the Democrats are running things on their side. I think that they're tired of like the constant attacks with no validation for why. That they're just like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna make you pissed off more, and we're gonna vote for him again. No, I mean, I think that he's going to be reelected because of the way that he's being attacked. Which is, I think, a large reason why he was elected in the first place was because he was getting so much flack, during the election, that they're just like, these Democrats are unhinged, right?
Well, I am going to say there had to be a lot of votes that went in for Trump that were just like, wouldn't it be funny if this guy got elected?
Oh yeah, no,
Right.
no, those were absolutely, absolutely, there were meme votes for sure. There were people who just voted for the meme, 100%.
America
I know a
trolled
few,
itself. America.
absolutely, absolutely, yes, that happened. But then there were also a lot of people who voted for him because one, he wasn't an establishment Republican or Democrat. Two, he was saying the things that they like that no one else has said, at least in recent memory. Um, he was basically sticking it to the establishment, uh, you know, politicians in general. He was saying, he was claiming that he was going to drain the swamp. And to be fair, a lot of them are gone. Um, I mean, he was making all these promises, and he's actually delivered on quite a few. I mean, the whole wall conversation got dropped because the construction was started. You know what I mean? Like, no one talks about that anymore
Right.
because it's actually happening. So now we have to kind of keep that out of the mainstream eye, because we can't have something, you can't have him fulfilling a campaign promise, right? That would be
Well, sure,
detrimental.
and I understand that. I mean,
And I
it's
agree with what Ron Helton says here. If Trump starts another war, he will be. I think he will immediately lose half or more of his red country base. Yeah, red country base. No more BS wars is what he promised. And to be fair, he's had several chances to start a new war and didn't take them. And I do, commend him for that, for sure.
I can agree with that. I I don't think that he can start a war and not be able to convince America that it was legitimate, that it's not a BS war. Like if he does it, it doesn't matter who he would start one with. I think he could he would find a way to legitimize it so that it's not a BS war. That would be his tack, and he's still keeping that campaign promise.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, a lot of the people that are still on his side would be like, or especially the people who are kind of like, all right, for Trump because I don't want to vote Democrat. They might be convinced to go the other way or vote third party or just abstain. Because they don't support Trump if he's going to start another war.
Right. Well, you know, but an American citizen was killed in Iran, or Iraq. Was it Iraq? It was Iraq by Iran. You know, that's not a BS war. American citizen lost their life. Come on, we need drone strike, potential war. We can do those things. There's legitimacy there. He's a master of legitimizing bullshit. I mean, he really not a
I
master, but I
mean,
mean, he's pretty. He legitimizes bullshit quite a bit, right? I
I
mean,
mean, to be fair, that's what Obama was doing the whole time, with because
sure
he did
every
way
president.
more junk. Right. Well, yeah. I guess yeah. Any president would be, but more recently, it would be Obama. Um, who was doing shitloads of drone strikes, more than Bush
Sure,
did. Which, to be fair, yes, the technology got better and it was more widely available during Obama, but he certainly didn't try and curb the use of them,
right.
right? Which of course killed more civilians than the targets. They killed civilians more often, I guess, than targets. Um, Also, real quick, CR1000, are you in our Discord server? Because if you're not, you should be. Link is in the description. Go check it out if you're not, because we have fun in there. I think you'll have fun in there too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Ron Held says there's no legitimate cause for war with Iran. He said the troops were leaving and yet they are still there. I mean,
Yeah.
technically, there's no legitimate cause for war with Iran from necessarily an American standpoint, but from I guess a NATO, as it were, standpoint, there are legitimate reasons for military action over there that could be laid out to legitimize any action that we take over there. I mean, we're sending 3,000 troops over that way right now, so we're preparing for the eventuality from this. I mean, 3,000 doesn't seem like a lot of numbers, but it really is not a small number either. That's a lot more boots than I want to be sending anywhere. You know, um, Trump 7G warfare fakes the whole thing in a studio with Call of Duty graphics added to placate the warlocks. Aha! Now back to the Aztecs in our wall. That's funny shit. Hey, by
Yeah.
the way, I don't know if you know it, but Midget said I'm insufferable. I have achieved insufferable, John.
Yes, you have
I
achieved the great art
I
of insufferability.
am insufferable, and I love it. It makes me happy. Um,
You
but
should use the Rick and Morty quote where you're like, what was it? Every breath I take without your permission raises my self esteem. Things like
that's nice.
that.
CR1000 says, I'm a Luddite. Thanks, I'll check it out. Saw you on Stephen Ignoramus the other day and took his recommendation to
Oh,
visit.
nice. Well, welcome, man.
Yeah,
Welcome. Yeah.
that
Yeah, that was a fun. You talking about the 24-hour stream? That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was crazy fun. But yeah, man, welcome. Definitely.
Yeah, so I don't know, John. It's with everything that's going on, it just I don't know. It just leaves me in a perpetual state of confusion most of the time. I mean, hell, I mean, just simple things like, oh, we've got the greatest economy of any president in the United States, and then I turn around and I listen to people on the street and people talking. It's like, this economy sucks. This economy sucks. Everything's so expensive. This economy sucks. We've got the greatest economy of any president in the history of the United States. What? So our economy's great. We're still going in debt. People are paying too much for shit, in their opinion, but our economy's great. So I would ask the question, who's the economy great for, John? Is it great for you? I mean, are you.
Yeah, I mean, I paid less taxes last year than I had previously. So, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I got more money in my pocket. That's what we want, right?
Right. How did that pan out at the end of the year with less money coming out? Did you
What, are we talking about like
Did
the
you
tax
owe?
return?
Did you? Yeah. Did you owe? You didn't owe.
No. In fact, I got $16. So, but yeah, but I mean, right, you're gonna get a less of a tax return when you
Well, I
pay
know.
less taxes, so you have more throughout the year.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you, so like, there's the old school mindset: how many dependents you claim when you're filing your taxes, right? The more you claim, the less tax they take out. So that was the point to the question: is okay. So they're taking less taxes out on you, but did your tax burden at the end of the year lessen as well to where you didn't owe taxes because you hadn't been paying as much in? Is
Oh
was
yeah,
the
I didn't
point?
know anything.
Right.
Yeah, didn't
Right.
know anything.
Ed, fuck those roads.
It's actually correction. It's fuck those hoe ass roads. By the way, I forget who that guy is. I need to find his. I'm pretty sure he's got a YouTube channel. I gotta find him because he sounds awesome.
Doesn't everybody have a YouTube channel by now?
Most people.
Isn't that kind of the thing? If you don't have a YouTube channel, oh, God, you're a peasant.
Fucking peasants.
What the hell is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Go collect more filth, peasant.
I don't care if you don't have a computer. You could do it from your phone. For
Right?
real.
You
I
don't
mean, for
live
real.
mine.
See, this economy is one giant balloon that is ready to pop. I agree with Ron Helton. Yeah, that's this kind of this where we're at, and six, see, aren't I claim 6 million dependents? Nice. I claim New
Nice.
York as dependents, please.
I
Thank you.
don't think that's what he's referring
No, it
to.
was a joke though. The number of people
Yeah,
paid less in taxes last year and had zero dependents. Yeah, that's
right.
good. Yeah. Um,
Well, that's what I have too. I have zero dependents. The only dependents I have are all of you folks out there who depend on me to give you entertainment twice a week.
now,
Those are the only dependents I have, but I can't claim those on taxes. So,
now, is there any possibility? And just put this out there that at the same time that you're noticing you're getting more in your paycheck, the deficit continues like is still growing.
oh yeah,
Still
oh yeah,
growing, right?
yeah.
So, you know, we've got to, I know it's, I don't
Well,
know.
that's
We're,
also not a one president fix.
no,
Even
no,
with two terms, that's not a one
well,
president fix
no.
whatsoever.
Well,
Yeah, and it's a mindset change.
Clinton seemed to make it look possible, right? He
He
was the first. He
he
was the
was the
first
first one
president
to
with
have a surplus
a
in a
balanced
while.
budget,
Yeah,
right? And showed a
yeah.
surplus. So like it's possible to show a surplus. No, I'm not saying get rid that one president could get rid of those trillions of dollars in debt. But if you're promoting such a successful economy and we're still going in debt, I don't see that as successful. I mean, can sit around and say, "Hey, I'm living well. Look around me. I got this nice place to live. I got all these nice things," and then they don't open that one drawer in the desk that's overflowing with credit card bills, right? It's like you're living large, but are you?
Yeah.
And is
Well, I mean,
and
you are. You just gotta stop. You gotta keep dodging those phone calls from creditors. You know.
But see, Helton makes a good point there, when he talks about that bubble, because I went through the housing bubble. I went through that, when the economy was on this great upswing and people were able
Right.
to buy houses and everything, and then totally got screwed to the tune of $400,000.
Yeah.
That was some hard fucking shit to deal with. I mean, it was fucking nasty, and I'm hoping that same kind of thing doesn't happen again, because the higher your economic outlook, standing, etc., the harder the
Yeah.
crash when it comes. Um,
Yeah. I'm down with repealing the 16th too, Ed. Yeah.
and the 16 does what?
That's the federal income tax.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's fine. I mean, but that runs counter to no more taxes. I mean, as long
At
as
least I'm pretty damn sure that's what it is.
yeah,
I'm about 95
yeah, the
percent.
states would pay their taxes to the government. I
Yeah,
think that's
yep,
what it is.
yep. That's exactly what it was. I was
But
right.
but
Yeah.
but the problem is that you still have to remember that those taxes are still going to come out of your pocket. Now, I'm much happier if it's a fair tax, so that I'm taxed on what I spend. I'm all
I'd
for
be
that.
happier with that, but also what Ed is saying is how that was done during the Articles of Confederation, which I think was a better document. Obviously, it had its issues with like the Springfield Rebellion, but I don't think it needed to get rid of. It was just the federal government didn't have a lot of power, and it collected its taxes from the states, who then collected their taxes from the people. I think it's a more fair system, but obviously you're still being taxed. But your rate depends on where you live, and
Sure.
sorry if the state, is collecting very few taxes. That's on the state.
Well, I'm all for a fair tax. I think that would be a great thing to institute in a country of
Yeah.
excess. That is the perfect way to
Well, it's
generate tax
because
dollars.
right, because of how our economy, we have a consumer economy
Huge, right?
as opposed to a industrial economy. We're not producing as much, which is what the income tax was for. Was because we were producing so much that everyone was had production jobs,
Right.
and so we're just taking money out of the paycheck. Well, instead, yeah, taxing the consumer goods is a better system. It's not ideal, but it's better. So that we can just tax what you spend, which because you're going to spend money either way, and that means that your tax burden is on you. So that's individual choice right there. It depends on how you know what's the word I'm looking for? You want to help me out?
Scrupulous?
Well, scrupulous that's more about morals, though, isn't it?
Well, scruples, morals. There's a fine line there. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
they're too. Well,
saying.
I mean,
Scruples
I
and
mean, there's a
morals,
fine line, but
but
morals are
no,
more
it's
of a, are more, ingrained, like
well,
heartfelt.
no,
It's
yeah,
like a moral
scruples, yeah,
soul
if you have
value.
scruples,
But scruples are
but
just,
no, I mean
standards.
like right, right. Repeal the 19th and let's solve some problems quickly. Without courageous women, we wouldn't have great cookies. Let's make cookies great again.
That's funny.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
because
actually had blonde.
thin mints don't
We
carry
actually,
the same pop that they used to.
we actually had blonde from Beauty and the Beta and blonde in the Belly of the Beast on, and she's argued for the repeal of the 19th.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I think I don't know. I think I got the better of her in that argument, to be honest.
Now, see,
Either that or it's just her nature to not really like argue, a lot. So I don't know. I don't know.
so Ed's
But that was a funny conversation. But yeah, check out that episode though, CR 1000, if you're interested.
So Ed points out, he says, well, with baby boomers dying off and my whole generation buried in student loan debt, the housing prices are going to drop and hard. And I would have to say that I kind of disagree with that a little bit, because one thing that I'm learning in this current economy that we have, yes, lots of people are back to work. We have low unemployment right now. People have
Hmm.
got jobs. But just because they have jobs doesn't mean they can afford the cost of goods and
Right.
services, because those prices continue to climb and climb and climb while money that's being doled out to employees is not matching it. Like, and it's not to say the government should step in and, I'm not talking minimum wage. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that many jobs out there do not meet a level capable of any legitimate amount of consumer spending, and the economy doesn't care. The producers don't care that you don't have enough money to afford it. So like housing prices dropping, I don't know. Just because your generation has a bunch of fucking student debt, I
Hmm.
don't know that anybody's going to give a shit. I mean, your government doesn't give a shit because
I don't give a
they're
shit.
they're
If you have
holding the
student debt,
note,
that's on you.
right? I don't have any student debt, but nobody. I don't think housing prices are going to drop hard because of that. I think housing prices could go down because you fuckers can't get into one, right? It's like, you know, yes, people can't buy, but if you think that that lower demand or the lower cost point demand is going to drive housing prices down, that's questionable because they're making money off houses as it is at the price
Hmm.
points they're going to. Um, but that doesn't mean we're not looking at a potential housing bubble. Hopefully, it won't be coming from the same source it was before with all the scammy mortgage bullshit that was going on. Like my house should never have been in that house. I should have been in a house much less expensive than the house I was in, but because of the way they were just approving mortgages left and right, hey, you qualify for this much house.
Hmm.
Do we? Did we really? Or were you just putting us in a house and getting a mortgage note for us?
Well, yeah, yeah, they're expecting you to fail. That's the thing. Is that's what the housing bubble was? Is that they're going to approve people who can't afford it,
Hmm?
and then at the same time bet against those mortgages, so that once you do default and they take the house back, they make a shitload of money, and then they get to put the house back on the market.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
now, see, Ed says that I made his point talking, in what I said about the houses dropping because people can't afford it. But I will say this: in my experience, things that I've seen in the past, we've seen points where housing prices were very expensive and people couldn't afford to buy houses. It's not the price dropping that happens first. I mean, that's one of the last things you're going to see in the housing market. The things that stop are things like new home building. Nobody goes out builds new homes if people aren't buying homes, right? It's not a
Hmm.
worthwhile investment. So, you've got that goes on for a while and then, blah blah blah, but, getting house
Yeah.
prices to drop, getting the economy to cater to your financial needs, that's not happening. That's not
Yeah.
happening right now. Um, you know,
And Ron Helton has a great idea with. He said, "I think a lot of people are going to concentrate on getting some raw land and building a house on the cheap." Absolutely.
it's exactly what I'm doing.
Um, yeah, no, I was going to say that's, and I plan on going with you for that. And he said my first house was a trailer. I paid cash. Yeah, dude, nothing wrong with that. I mean, shit, you'll live within your means. Like, if that's what you want, if that's what's going to make you have a better life, especially more money in your pocket to spend. Like, the idea of being house poor is a terrible thing.
Hmm.
We're like, yeah, you might have a nice house. Okay, great. But you can't do anything. What's the point?
But see,
You,
and Ed says that he says it's not necessarily that they can't afford it; they can't get approved. And
yeah.
I will say that there's a fine line on that approval thing, because many mortgage lenders are taking student loan debt into account as a non sequitur to a certain
Mm.
extent because of all the delays you can put on it and that kind of thing, to where, okay, that is a considerable option versus a deal breaker, right? Because it is becoming such a standard with folks. Does that mean the price of the houses are going to go down? No. What it means is that they will fuck up and they will begin creating yet another housing bubble where people that do have a lot of student loan debt are getting into houses that they should not be getting into. It will happen that way because what do we hear constantly? I need relief. I need help with my student loan debt. It's so big and this, that, and the other. I need you to, you know, That's where the companies will capitulate and put people in a worse position than they were when they couldn't get approved for a house. And that's
Hmm.
the sad part, because that's how this capitalist consumer economy is, right? The capitalism of it. We want to make that money. We've got to make more capital, put people in houses. It doesn't matter that they can't afford them. We have a legitimate
No,
reason.
it's actually better that they can't afford them because then you're going to be able to take in a couple of payments, right? And then they're going to get evicted because they're not going to be able to make those payments, and then you
Potentially.
get the house back. They're going to default, and you get the house
Sure.
back and put it on the market again.
Yeah. There's that
Meanwhile,
avenue.
you already got the money from the loan,
Hmm.
right? Then you get a default. Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it's a like looking at it objectively, that is brilliant. Now, morally, that is absolutely reprehensible.
but now see, when it happened a few years ago, it was bad. But they can legitimize it this time and say they were being forgiving of the astronomical student loan debt that so many people have. They were being forgiving of that and allowing people to get houses. That's what the spin would be. That's where it would go, so that they could capitalize on those people that can't afford the house, and yes, will
Hmm.
flip the house, etc.
Right.
Midget says, what do you say? Banks are going to have a shitload of houses left over from dead boomers that Zoomies aren't going to buy. Yeah, but a lot of those dead boomers are going to leave those houses to their kids, right? I mean, most
Hopefully.
a lot of kids are going to get boomer rental houses, right? I mean, mom and dad die, they leave me the house. Yeah, most of these baby boomers have paid off houses. So
Yeah, so you can rent them out if you're smart.
right,
Most people aren't smart, and also renting out a house is it's a risk.
it's
You don't know what kind of condition you're going to get that house back in, unless of course you know the people or
well,
whatever.
well,
It's kind of a crapshoot,
but that's about good management as a landlord too.
right?
Like, if you're not there to do it, you hire somebody that is regularly checking on the house. You know,
Hmm.
it is one of those things. Or you make it a point to get there. Something you find somebody that can keep up with what's going on at the house. Yeah, if you're dumb enough to just leave it out there and let it be rented. I mean, my last landlord that I rented from was very much like that. He didn't give a fuck about that house, and it showed in the house. Once you got moved in and like pulled the curtains aside, as it were, I was like, God damn, this motherfucker. Talk about a scumlord. But Ed says, I can afford a house right now, but I can't get approved. I can finally get that fixed right now, but millennial credit is garbage. Granted, everybody's credit is garbage unless you make a six-figure salary every year. Then
That's
it's,
not true.
I mean, no, I won't. Okay, yes, it's an overgeneralization. My wife's got great credit. For instance, she's done amazing over the years in keeping a great credit score. But she doesn't have student loan debt. That debt to income ratio, yeah, it's going to hurt. It does kill a credit rating for most things. But I'm telling you, many companies are going to start being more forgiving of that and not looking at that, especially as you have more people coming into the campaign arena saying we're going to forgive student loan debt. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if you think about it, it's kind of like a long play investment to give somebody a house even if they have student loan debt, because all that debt may go away and they're a capable buyer. You're playing the long odds on that,
Yeah,
yes or
but
no.
if
But
they
these guys have been in the risk business for a long time.
Yeah, but that's a bad invest or a bad risk to make because I mean, if they can't afford student loan debt, that means they can't afford a house either. And if they can, what are they going to do with that money that they were paying on the student loan debt? Most likely, they're going to go and spend it,
Well, sure.
which of course helps with like local taxes and sales tax and all that. But uh, I don't think that people are going to put it towards a house. People don't usually, at least, okay, again, generalization, right? That they're not going to think that far ahead. And I know that because it's taken me until shit like 2 years ago that I started thinking, further ahead than next week.
Sure,
You know,
but bear this in mind, John. When you actually purchase a home, the reality of long-term decisions hits you in the face, because one of the first things you have to look at when you buy that house is, what do you mean it's going to take me 30 years to pay this off? 40
Yeah.
years to pay this off? So instantly you're thrown in, and it's weird. There is a change that comes over you when you become a homeowner. I mean, it's like it's a whole different thing. It's like I'm
Hmm.
not under a landlord's thumb. This is I can call this mine. Yes, it's not really mine, but I can call this mine, right?
Yeah.
This house sitting on this non-owned piece of property, as it were,
Little plot of land. Yeah.
right?
Especially if you live in like a subdivision, like a neighborhood.
Yeah,
Bruh.
I
Yeah.
mean,
You got that little like your tiny little plot of land right there. That's yours. You get to mow that grass
right.
and that's yours.
Till we need it.
Fuck that.
Till we need it.
Yeah.
Till we need it.
Well, yeah. Until we feel like we want to put a highway through your, you know.
Actually, Ed, people with good credit can still get 30-year mortgages. I mean,
Yeah. Hell yeah.
actually, there are 20-year mortgages for those who can really afford to pay a hefty sum. I mean,
Fuck that.
yeah, if you've ever looked at a house payment on a 20-year mortgage, you might as well just take your cyanide pill now. Uh,
Yeah. Fuck that. I'll take a fucking 80-year mortgage. Let's roll those dice. Fuck that.
now, see, and
I'd
see,
rather pay the less, but the least, and pay it off over a larger amount of time. That's gonna be significantly less than rent,
now,
right? And at the same
yeah,
time, it's like even if I'm still paying it off, okay. I mean, what? It's mine still. I don't know.
yeah. But the sad thing about a house is, unless
And then also, if you can sell it, and then you're gonna get,
yeah,
usually,
there's the
usually
crapshoot.
you get your money, for the house, like for the rest of the payment plus enough to put down on another one. That's usually what people do. Um, so yeah. And yeah, exactly, Ron Hilton. You're renting your property from the government. You don't actually own that land or that house. It's just being borrowed for a while till you die.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not that the government owns it.
They do.
It's American property. It's American land.
Right, the
I mean,
government. Yes.
it's America. It's the country's land. This is the people's land. So if a local government needs part of your land for the people's improvements for the people, because it's the people's land. It's American
Yeah.
land. It's American
Yeah.
soil. This
The
is all of
people's land.
ours. My house sits on all of our land, John.
Oh my
All.
god. Fucking hippie.
Ed, I didn't take a 20. No, no, my mortgage is a 40-year mortgage. I'm saying that, yeah, it's like if you, yeah, now see, Midget says take a 30-year mortgage and pay it off
Hmm.
in 15. And yeah, that's smart. If you've got the money to do that, absolutely, you save a shit ton of money in interest because, like, I mean, shit, John,
Refinancing, yeah.
it's crazy when you look at it. Like, we've been in this house going on, we're 2.5 years. We've been in this house. And I just looked at it. Over the last 2.5 years, we've paid about $6,500 in principal.
Yeah.
$6,500 in principal out of, you know, what is that? 30 months at around, a good, well over 1K click per mortgage payment. So like 6 mortgage payments worth of, equity in the house at this point, 2.5 years later. It's fucking sad and phenomenal.
Yeah. And so I like what Ron Hilton's saying there. We need to all live within our means, not our wants. Absolutely. Um, that's why, I mean, I live a pretty Spartan lifestyle. I don't have much in the way of like things. You know, I don't have a credit card either. I
But
refuse to get a credit card.
but
Just because first of all, I don't trust myself not to just spend a bunch of money. But yeah, I also just no, I don't need it because I live within my means. If I don't have the money for something, I'm not going to get it, and that's it.
so, but what happens? So, how much of that do you think changes if you finally get married?
Well, that's the thing. Fiance has, I think she has about $8,000 in credit card debt, which I've been helping her, kind of get rid of. So if I got married to her, yeah, I would accrue that debt, and that's bullshit. So I'm trying to, uh, help her get rid of that by, whatever, put aside whatever amount of money every month to pay off more than the minimum balance, and not using it all the time, that sort of thing. But I know myself, I can't falter that much because I don't have the self discipline to not use it. Just randomly, just be like, you know what, I'll just use my credit card on this and then swipe it. I'm like I told you off mic, I just bought a new chair, so I can sit at this desk a lot more comfortably than I am now. I mean, it's a kitchen chair. I mean, it's not very comfortable for a long period of time. So I've got an actual like desk chair, almost like a gaming chair, even coming, but paid for it all at once. Didn't have to, I'm not making payments on it. I've never had a car payment. I've had several cars, never had a car payment. The only thing I paid on it was obviously insurance and gas. That was it, and whatever parts needed.
Yeah.
But
So, but this Spartan lifestyle, can that continue once you get married? And and that's with the caveat. Do you the question? Do you plan on having a family when you do?
I mean, even so, I mean, yeah, I can maintain a minimalist lifestyle. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you do have children, you need, there's things that you need for that. Um, but other than that, I mean, yeah, your expenses increase, but that's it. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. You have another person,
I mean, but you
especially a
have to
dependent.
you have to consider what you're going to do for a home, right? You've got to consider:
Yeah,
do I buy a house? Do I go like you've talked about joining us up in Tennessee? Do I buy a chunk of property and just throw something on it? How?
yeah,
What am I going to? You're going to have to buy into the system some way if you want to provide a home for your family, right? Like
yeah,
these things push us to the point of having to get caught in that vicious cycle.
yeah.
Even her with a credit card debt and you none. As soon as you get married, that
That's what I
is
was
now
saying. Yeah,
right. That's
it
now
was my
your
dad, all my
debt.
debt.
So
Yeah,
now you've just become a potential burden. Unless you manage to try and
right.
keep these things separated, which you can, but that means you buy the house, not
Yeah,
both of you buy the house kind of
right.
thing, right? It's these really fine lines that you've got to walk down. But the funny thing is she's technically, as far as the credit card companies are concerned, she's more credit worthy than you are, with all her credit card debt and you none.
Well, no, she actually has a worse credit score than I do
No, no,
because
no.
she's missed payments and stuff.
I didn't say anything about credit score. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is credit worthy. So when I say credit worthy, I guess maybe that's not the best term to use, but she created credit card debt. Credit card companies love her because
Oh,
they're making bank off
and
of her.
and Ron Helton, she can cook. Goddamn, can she cook? Yeah.
Those looks don't last. Actually, they can last as long as you tape a younger picture over their face. Like
Right.
make them a mask of their younger self.
No,
If
you just put a brown paper bag over it. See,
no,
minimalist, right?
no,
Brown
no.
paper bag, and then a picture of her, younger self, right
Is,
there. Bam.
Islam what?
You know. Yeah, that too. Just make her wear, a burqa all the time or a niqab. That way you just see the eyes.
No, now, CR, I can go ahead and tell you. He says without usury and hyperinflated home prices, John can have a reasonably priced home and raise a family. Boomers need to keep the myth of debt-based economic slavery being somehow good. I don't
Yeah, no,
think you
it's
won't
less
hear me
bad
say it's
though.
good, and the only people that you will hear say that's good, and I can speak for my generation and people I know of the same age, the only people who are thinking that's good are people that can afford all that credit that they run up.
Midget. I've heard the troll. I like it. But people do that. I know there's a way that like if you work everything out right, you can make 30 grand a year off of welfare.
Oh yeah,
But now
you
it
can.
it takes a lot of work though. That's the thing is it
Well,
takes a lot of work and a lot of knowledge to know how to game the system in that way. So it is kind of a full-time job
well,
doing that. And then there's professional renters as well. If you don't have Section 8 housing, there's like professional renters who know the laws and so they know, something like eviction notices, things like that you can get around.
right.
Not showing up to court at certain points, like which court appearances you have to show up to and which ones you don't.
Right.
That can prolong the eviction
Exactly.
process, so you can stay
Yeah.
there for years without paying any
Right.
rent.
And
Yeah,
then
it's
when it's
fucking
all said
ridiculous.
and done, and you've been there forever, and you're going through all of this, and it's really coming, then you go squatters' rights.
Yeah.
You need to whip that shit out, dude. I've been here for 3 years and I haven't paid a stick of rent, and I'm still
Yeah.
here. Squatters' rights, bitch. Squatters' rights. You know? um,
Fucking ridiculous. Yeah.
um, no, it's when it's all said and done, it's it's a fucking it's a whacked out game, and I don't love the credit card thing. I don't love the credit game, though.
Yeah. Fuck that. I refuse to play. I mean,
it's
I have credit through other means, but not never through a credit card. It's never gonna happen.
right, and it's just it's one of those things that, you know, the idea of economic slavery, blah 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 aside, there you are you like even as CR said, you know, a reasonably priced home. You need credit to get your hands on that home. I don't care if it's a home that you're going to build, because you're going to have to come up with money to hire. You got to have a chunk of money to bring somebody in to build the house, unless you're doing it yourself. If you're buying a manufactured home, you're still going to need credit unless you've got $50,000, $60,000 in cash to drop on that. So
And even
it's
then, they're gonna discourage you from dropping straight
sure,
cash on it. They
right,
want the credit. They
sure.
want the debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's a fucking game. Fuck it. No, don't do it. Don't put yourself in that hole. Don't do it. Don't owe anybody anything.
Right, but when we talk about, okay, you say 5 years from now you finally
Hmm.
married and you're thinking about having a kid. Well, you want to raise your kid in a home. You don't strike me as the type of person that, when coupled with a family, you want to continue renting. That just doesn't seem like you. You want to have your place. You don't want to be under
Yeah.
somebody's thumb while you're trying to raise a family, right?
I mean, I wouldn't mind terribly, but it wouldn't be ideal. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I would do what I need to do. To provide. That's the thing that I would do. But obviously, I would try and get out of that situation. Yeah.
Oh, mad props to Cameron Michael. Made it to the
Hell
final
yeah,
table in
dude.
his poker tournament. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you will succeed. Oh, wait, did you make it and it's done? Or did you make it
Well,
and you still have yet to
he made
play?
it right. Yeah, that's what he's saying is that he made the final table. Dude, fucking awesome. I think what he said was he could make $600 tonight,
Hmm.
which
So,
that's pretty fucking awesome.
so
Yeah, hell yeah,
so
dude.
if he
He owes
wins,
me a steak dinner if he
I was going to
wins.
say,
Yeah.
if he wins, that means tomorrow's his treat. Uh,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, pay for all of us, you dickweed. Yeah, but no, good luck to Cameron. Everyone, send out good vibes and stuff to him, whatever. I don't know. If pray for him if you believe in that sort of thing, whatever it is.
um, yeah, it's it began, this whole credit debacle, the economy, all of that. There's so many factors there that it really, if I were your age or younger, man, I would be scared as fuck about even considering buying a house. I would probably be continue with the mentality, I'll just fucking rent for the rest of my life. I
Yeah,
mean, I
see, I
don't.
mean, I'm lucky in that my dad in the past 5 years has gotten into real estate. And he owns several houses. Uh, he's looking into getting into like not the small houses or mini houses, whatever they're called, the little ass ones,
Right.
but still like small houses, but not like the ones that
Like
people
the
think of.
kind of like the cracker box houses here in Florida.
Yeah, but they're he showed me them. We when I was over there over Christmas, he was showing me a couple of them in Sanford, and they're like these tiny like one bedroom, one bath houses. But like on the inside, they're really nice. Like the tile was done nicely, the
Sure.
kitchen was nice. Everything was new and nice. These are brand new houses, but they're tiny. It's like very small living room. It's like an apartment, but it's a house.
Right.
It's really crazy, and obviously, I think it's a good investment. you're always going to find someone who wants to live there. And I was thinking about grabbing one of those up because they're really cheap,
Right.
and they're enough for a person or even two people. Obviously bringing a kid into the picture, is different, but yeah, I mean it can totally work, and again, it's really cheap, and so your mortgage payments are going to be really cheap, and you're not going to use as much electricity, you're not going to use as much water or anything else. It seems like the perfect kind of house for me, at least, because again, that whole
Well, sure.
minimalist,
Sure.
lifestyle.
And I've looked
I
at
don't
I've looked
mess.
at even some of the tiny houses, and I'm like, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
tiny house. That's what I was thinking of.
That's impressive what they can do with 700 square feet, right?
Yeah, even
Uh,
that. I wouldn't care. But obviously, bringing a kid into the picture, that's a totally different,
but see, and
totally different thing.
that's the
But
funny thing. I just read an article where they were showing some of these, and this woman was in like a 400 to 500 square foot tiny house, and she had two kids and herself living there.
damn, I couldn't imagine that. I mean, I guess if you spend most of your time outdoors, or out of the house at least, it
Yeah,
wouldn't be as big of a deal. If you're just there for the meals and sleeping, maybe you'll watch TV at night as a family, whatever, fine. But
no,
as we are now as a society, we spend a lot of time indoors.
mm,
You know,
well, I can
yeah, I can see why a lot of people wouldn't want that, but I would have no issue with that.
I can see what I can tell you the one thing that makes it successful for her now versus later. Those fucking kids aren't teenagers. But
Yeah.
trust me, in a few years,
Midget B
that
getting the cuck shit, John.
that little bitty house is not going to be appealing.
Yeah. No, it's not, especially if you're trying to, sneak a girl in or whatever. You know, I don't know. Yeah. And
Um,
you certainly can't bring friends over and stuff. There's not enough space, you know.
Ed's been talking about getting a house loan, doing refinancing through the whole thing. Like his aunt and uncle used to do it and go on vacations with it, but he would use it to remodel the house. Blah blah blah. That's all well and fine, Ed. But remember this: the improvements that you make to a house are improvements to you. That there is never a guarantee that that's going to increase the price of your home. Like, for instance, this house, John, you've seen what we've done to the yard. It's like an amazing greenery factory around here,
Yeah,
right?
the garden is actually impressive. I'll say
I mean,
that. All jokes, any kind of jokes aside, yeah, the garden is actually really awesome.
it is a full blown, wildlife habitat, certified,
Yeah,
right?
certified. Yeah,
How,
by the city.
right.
Yeah,
However, here in this urban environment where we've carved this out, this home value is only increased to anybody who loves gardening, loves plants, would want
yeah,
to take on what we have here. So the improvements that we made, which are awesome. City recognition for what we've got going on here, but it's a narrow market of people. We're now going to have to sell to a very specific group of people. But that it's not to say that it has an added value. But if we don't sell to the right seller, that value is going to be for naught. So that's the caution
yeah.
you have to take with doing any home improvements, especially if you were to do it on a refinanced mortgage, because
Well, I think your office though will give it value if you finish, put in the proper,
yeah, actually,
drywall and whatnot.
actually,
I think it would.
I wouldn't have to finish the inside. Like the way I have it now is still it's the perfect man cave. I mean, guys who want a man cave will look at this and go, "Yeah, this is great. I don't give a fuck. I'll put some fucking sheetrock up on that shit myself. I don't care about
Yeah.
that. This is perfect." So yes, it does add value. I would be honestly say that we've probably by enclosing this amount of square footage and air conditioning it, we've probably
Yeah.
added 5 grand to the value of the house with it.
Probably.
Potentially,
Yeah.
right? If you find the right buyer that
Right.
sees the value in it and is willing to pay for it. Um, but Ed says updated appliances, updated wiring, a fresh coat of paint, good flooring are universal goods. They are.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
universal. But I can promise you this: if you are refinancing your mortgage, you probably need the money for something else. Unless, like your aunt and uncle, you're just doing it to get some cash to go on vacations. But typically, most people refinance because they need some more fucking money. They need money to take care of other shit that they've gotten into with their credit. I mean, you're usually using with like we got caught in that trap with our old house. They sent us the thing. It's like, oh, you've been in the house for a year and a half. Oh my God, your value has skyrocketed. You've got this much equity. Take some money out. Okay. So,
Yeah,
the
fuck
part
all that,
the
man.
part you don't think about is that's another bill that's coming. It's not the same mortgage company. It's a whole new
Yeah.
thing. Oh my God.
CR
15K.
1000.
Punching that room.
That's right.
Uh,
Oh
CR
man.
says
But yeah,
gardening is gay. Farm. I can't farm in an urban area on a quarter
but
acre
to be fair,
lot.
you do have some.
We have some vegetables we grow,
Yeah.
but what we
So I
do
mean, that's not bad. I mean,
what we do is support the environment. We give thousands upon thousands of bees a home to come and eat and survive and thrive in. Birds, frogs, all sorts of nature
butterflies
thrive.
especially. Yeah.
Butterflies out the ass. These things that are important to making sure we all breathe
And the
in
koi
the
pond
world.
is pretty cool. Especially speaking of what CR 1000 said about ganja. Yeah, sitting out at the underneath that little thing you got, the over whatever
Yeah,
overhang,
yeah,
and just looking at the koi pond. That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
yeah. We're gonna have to rebuild that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the weight of all of the plants that were
On
growing
top.
over it,
Yeah.
eventually the weight, because that one vine, that passion flower vine that's back there, has gone 30 foot up in the air and is eclipsing the trees that are there in the corner. But the weight of it that was on top of the overhang
Hmm.
eventually crushed the PVC that I had used to build it. So now it's collapsed and I've got to take
It's
all
starting
that
to
out.
sagging.
And we're going to
Yeah.
rebuild it with some wood and reline the pond and set it up
Yeah.
fresh again. But yeah, I mean that pond has been great. We've had fish in there, but man, the amount of
Frogs.
frogs that
Yeah.
come out there
Everything.
laying eggs every year. But you can go out there, you can go out into it at night and sit there, and it feels like you're out in the middle of the fucking country. The frogs and the crickets, everything drown out the city noise, and it feels like you're out in the country. Uh,
Yeah.
that's worth something to somebody. It's worth a shit ton to me,
Absolutely.
right? And I get it. It's just gardening, but I mean, to see the plants and the flowers and the things that happen in this yard and the nature that comes to it, you can't put a price on it. You really can't, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so but again, like as they've said, it's a subjective thing, and it's sad that that's true, but it's a subjective thing. You know,
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a new coat of paint. It's not new appliances, but it's a very, very attractive quality to the right people. I don't know. It
Right. I mean,
it
it might
makes us
take you
feel
longer
good
to
about
sell.
ourselves, if nothing else.
It might take you longer to sell, but you will get that extra value out of it if you wait for the right person.
And worst case scenario, my wife loves to take her fucking plants with her. We'll dig them all out. I'll tear down every structure we've built, and she'll take the fucking plants out, and we'll throw down a bunch of fucking sod if we have to. If that's what it comes down to. I don't think it will, but
Yeah.
you know.
Hell yeah.
Ron Hill says he has frogs every spring. One corner of my yard is a swamp. Nurture that
Yeah.
swamp, Ron. We
That's
sadly we
right.
have to build our own swamps on our property. We've got a couple built. Um, we've put in
Which
a
is funny because Florida is all swamps.
right.
That's really funny. Yeah.
We put in a dry creek bed too. That actually during the rain actually turns into a small creek that runs through the back along the back side of the house to
Oh,
carry.
is that new since
Well,
I've been there?
yeah, I think so. I don't think you've seen it if it was here since the last time. It's nothing major. We just dug it out and we threw rocks in and everything. But basically, it's to catch all the runoff from the house that will pool behind the patio, the screened-in
Hmm.
porch. So we now have that to run it off. But we've decorated. We've got plants along it, so it's a nice. We've got old wooden logs there along it, like it looks like it was that way. It's been setting in now over the last few months to where it looks pretty natural. It's pretty cool when it rains to see that water running back through there. Um,
See, I like the aquaponics. Aquaponics are actually fucking awesome, and uh, that's something that I would. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about it, but it would be kind of cool to get into. That would be fucking awesome. Yeah, that's what CR 1000 was talking about.
and he says gardens don't identify as jungles just because they feel like it. No, that's true. I don't have. Well, actually, with the amount of vines and all that shit, I mean, there are a couple of areas in my yard that is like, damn,
That could be
it's like a
considered, yeah.
fucking jungle in here, like, like going over there to the koi pond because during the fall and winter, things, you get ready for a spring cutback, so everything's been growing. Like I was going to go back there earlier this week, and I was like, do I need to get a machete? To kind of
Yeah,
cut through
just
these
to
things
make
are
it to
getting
the
a wild,
pond.
right? Things get a little
Yeah,
wild. Um, that's funny. He lives in Florida, has to build his own swamp, and it's true. We had to
yeah.
build small, right?
To be fair, though, he
But
lives in the city and
right,
not
we
out in
do
the
live.
boondocks
We
where there
are,
are actual swamps. Yeah.
um, but ironically, I used to live in an apartment complex that is within 5 miles of here. And the apartment complex itself, still considered Orlando, near the airport, that kind of thing, but the apartment complex itself actually backs up to swampland. Like you could
Hmm.
go to the back fence after a rain, and it's just like, wow, that looks like a magic card, like,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, yeah, nurture that swamp, Ron. There's a lot of good plants. If I can get away with it, if you really want to sell a water hyacinth, though you have to keep it contained because technically you can't send them anywhere. These are an invasive plant, but man, they make some fucking beautiful flowers and grow like a weed in the right swampy environment. But
Mm.
you know, do I need to get a machete? The answer is always yes.
Yeah, fair enough. You
Good
should at
point.
least get one. Whether or not you need to use it in that moment is different, but yes, you should get one. But it is also past that time.
It is that time. I was just getting ready to wrap this up. So, John,
Yeah.
to wrap this up properly, I think you need to give the deets.
Yes, the deets. Everyone, down in the description. On your way down there, there are two buttons down there. It's one and two, right? There's a like button that you should be hitting. There's a subscribe button that you should be hitting if you haven't already. Um, I guess you can hit that little bell notification if you care to do so, but it's not required. But it's kind of cool, you'll know when we're on. But then once you do get to the description, we have our Twitter that you can follow us at, which is at the GenGapP. The link, obviously, down there. Our Discord server, which you should all be a part of because holy shit, it's fun. Then we've got our freedomscoop.com link down there, so you can go and check out other content creators like Jay Edgar, who's in our chat right now, Stephen Ignoramus, or Wyatt from Roundtable Decision. Um, Check out their content there as well. You can also buy our merch, which is over there. Um, and we also have a promo code for it. So we have a T-shirt, such as this one, and we also have a coffee mug, such as this one here. Looks kind of nice, right? And then we have 15% off using our promo code, which is down there, just GenGap. The code is down there. And yes, Ed is reminding me. Don't forget the deets for Monday. Yes, this Monday we're actually having a full Freedom Scoop meeting live on Jay Edgar's channel. So make sure you go and subscribe to him as well if you haven't already. We're gonna be I think we're just hanging out
Well,
with
no, we would
us and the Freedom Scoop guys.
actually if it's yeah, I'll be there as well on Monday, Ron. If it's like the last time, there'll be topics to talk about. It'll
Yeah,
you know
fair enough.
there Ed had a plan that you guys ditched him on.
Yeah, I especially did. He's super mad at me, especially because I did say I would be there and it didn't work.
Six.
Yeah, 6 Eastern. And Ron Hilton. No, we're all going to be on Edge channel on Monday.
I think he's
He
trying to
says he'll have an itinerary.
maybe
Gee, I don't like itineraries.
whatever you want to
Anyway,
call it, a plan, an itinerary. God,
I know, right? He's
fine
gonna be all
itinerary.
professional and fancy.
God,
Whatever, man.
he's probably going to expect us to dress up too. I'm going to have to pull out
I
my
know, right?
black cocktail dress and everything. Um,
Right.
all right, so there's
I'll
there's
just wear the gut Zito.
So there's all the deets for all the things that are deetable. Hey, want to
Yes,
give a shout out to all our new people. CR, thanks for stopping by tonight. It's good to see all of our
definitely.
regular viewers. Sully, Ron Helton, Ed, Midget, all you folks in the house coming out here giving us a little bit of support. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Thanks for jumping in and calling us on our shit or, just running your fucking mouth because,
Either way.
I still want to know. See, does that see now? That's just okay. Does that mean he's not going to show up because I'm there? Because I would really love that accolade too. I mean, I'm insufferable.
Yeah.
I want to be
Oh my
that
god.
insufferable. No,
Those people to stop showing up.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can drive all our viewers away, then I'm happy. No.
Then I'll be happy. Yeah.
Hey, but do me a favor. Keep these conversations going on in your personal lives. I don't give a shit about this. Let's not talk about politics. Let's not talk about important things. We need to talk about the important things because nothing's getting fixed. Nothing's fucking changing. It's all the same shit show day after day. So, anyway, we will be back on Monday, not only for the Freedom Scoop group up at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be right here at 9 p.m. Eastern for our regular Shooting the Shit episode. And then we'll also turn around and be back next Friday with our regular show at 8:30, just like you're seeing tonight.
Hell yeah.
I don't think this is January. It's a clear month. There's nothing that happens in January. Am I correct? Everything that could possibly happen has happened.
Well, actually, just the Scottish Highland games, which I may or may
Whatever.
not be streaming from. Uh, if I'm not going to stream from there, I will at the very least take video and then upload that video to the channel.
If you
So there will be content from there for sure.
if you go there and don't wear a kilt, I disown you.
I don't have a kilt, so
You have time. Amazon 2-hour Prime. Get it done.
you know what?
I dare
If
you.
you and or the audience buys me a kilt, I will
Now
wear
we
it.
have to buy
And I
you
will show.
one? Fuck you.
Telling you, I don't need it. Plus, I'm not Scottish, so
It doesn't matter.
it does.
You can lie and say you're Scottish. I mean,
I mean, I
who's
guess.
gonna know? I mean, you tell them you're Irish. You tell them you're Irish. You tell them you're Scottish. How are they gonna fucking know one way or the other? You can't tell it.
As I speak Irish, not Gaelic.
You just
That's
speak
why.
gay. Anyway, we're gonna get the hell out of here. John, have yourself a good night, folks. Have yourselves a good night. Thanks for stopping by to see us. We will be seeing you again come Monday. Peace.
Yep, see you guys.
The war will begin.